One thing about being in a crisis situation is that we find out who falls apart in a crisis and who shines. And it's not always who you thought it was. Have you noticed this? I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and I'm here in my new temporary setup for video shoots here in California, where we are sheltering in place right now. And I've got myself set up to help the whole fairy community and everyone really who's working to heal their childhood PTSD, to calm their symptoms and rise up strong so that those of us who maybe are especially skilled at living through a crisis can get through this situation and even be a source of inspiration and strength for other people in our lives. We can be a light because that's what we were meant for, right? It's an ironic silver lining of childhood PTSD that when we went into fight or flight mode as kids, a lot of us developed the ability to compartmentalize stress and fear so that we could keep going, look normal, keep order in the house. And even as little kids, we did that. And a month ago, and all of last year really, we talked about how that response to stress, when it's not called for, is not healthy. And it leads to weird life choices and a lot of stress on our bodies and our relationships and the long-term trajectory of our lives. But in a crisis, you know what? A lot of us are great. And you see this among world leaders and heroes and like nurses and soldiers and first responders. Some of the most accomplished people who have contributed the most to society in crisis times had serious trauma during childhood. It doesn't have to ruin us. For some of us, it's a place where we're tested and formed. And if you can do nothing else during this completely strange, paralyzed, frightening period of our collective history, I encourage you to just let your light shine. Now, what really do we mean by, light, and how do we brighten that light, and why should we want to? It's through the quality of character that I call ballast. That's how we strengthen our light. Ballast. If you don't know the word ballast, B-A-L-L-A-S-T, it's the word for the heavy material like sand or metal that's often sort of piled up inside the bottom of a ship to hold it steady. So the seas might get choppy, but the ship doesn't bounce around so much. It doesn't rock. It's steady. And another kind of ballast is an electrical ballast, and that's a device that limits the flow of electricity through a circuit so that it doesn't get overloaded and fry. So you can see why ballast is such a good metaphor for that thing we need to stay steady, not tipping over, not getting overloaded and burned out when we're doing our work, when we're living our lives, fulfilling our purpose, right? Ballast. So how do we get it? The first thing, and everyone says this, but it's pretty hard to do sometimes, especially in a crisis, is to take care of yourself by sticking to a schedule. And with a lot of us working from home or caring for kids at home or laid off or alone at home, we run the risk of sliding into that gray blur of childhood PTSD, weird sleep, weird food, weird moods, long periods of paralysis. Now, we don't know how long that this situation is going to go on with coronavirus, but even when life is normal again, it really helps our tendency to get regulated if we can keep our minds strong by sticking to a schedule. That means we get up at the same time every day, more or less. We go to bed more or less at the same time, just like we used to. I like to open up the curtains first thing when I wake up, even if it's dark, so that when the sun comes up, it comes in and starts telling me what time of day is it? What time of year is it? And for that reason, I also like to go outside and just check out the sun and let that get into my eyes so that I can re-regulate around it. For me, exposure to sunlight is super regulating. And so, yeah, I recommend half an hour a day, at least outside, even when it's cold and rainy. So with your schedule, you can eat at the same time you always did. And if you're living in a place where you can take walks, try doing it at the same time every day, kinda. It also helps if you sit down each morning or the night before, if you like, and make a plan for the day. It's okay if you can't stick to it perfectly, but having a plan is a super solid form of ballast. Another way to have ballast, exercise. If you can take walks or run even, great. I'm personally really enjoying the YouTube exercise teachers like the Fitness Marshall. I like to put on music. I like to dance. I like to sing. That's not exercise, but I like it. And I do it even by myself. I have to do it by myself. My family finds it very annoying and embarrassing for them. I don't even care. But I can't go to my gym. Nobody can right now. But I lay like folded towels down on the dining room floor and I do some ab exercises. I'm really lazy and I'm irregular about it, but I know that I have to move my body to get through this time of isolation at home. And it doesn't hurt to keep your lungs strong too with some cardio workouts. If I do get sick, I want my lungs to be strong enough to fight it off if I possibly can. Okay, so diet. It is so tempting right now to just snack all day on all that extra food that I bought in the last few weeks. But I know from experience that as much as I like sugar and cookies and salty, crunchy junk, when I eat a lot of that stuff, I get totally burned out. And that very day, I'm burned out, like within 20 minutes. And the good feeling I get from treats that is so fleeting and then very quickly leads to brain fog and that blurry sense of time that comes with PTSD. That comes along, and it's just not worth it. And I can't afford to do that right now. I know that my best thinking and my best energy and my best immunity come when I eat higher protein, lower carb foods, not too much of them. That's a big source of ballast. Another one is nature. I live about 10-minute drive from some open space in the hills. And my family and I have been up there just about every day since this whole lockdown started. And I feel so good up there. It's springtime. There are coyotes and cows and owls and birds everywhere and wildflowers and snakes. And it just feels like life goes on. In nature, they don't know what's going on. Everything's fine up there. And when I'm around that, I'm fine. I get a vacation from that just constant backbeat of worry that so many of us have been feeling lately. I'll be up there later today and it's great. I'm going to be walking up the hills, getting that exercise for my lungs, forgetting this whole virus stuff, just being with nature. Then finally, the ultimate form of ballast is the daily practice. So now is the time to keep our minds nice and strong. And the daily practice, it's like Pilates. It's like probiotics. It's like eating fiber for your brain. When the anxiety starts rising up and the what if this and what if that thoughts, start taking over and running the show, it's time to stop and drop and do these two simple techniques again and come back to the center. If you have childhood PTSD, you want to have that sturdy weight in the bottom of your ship, so to speak, so you can cut through the waves, so you can keep moving, so you can have some regulation in your nervous system and your brain so that you're not frying your circuits with that just overabundant electricity of crisis energy. You don't want too much. You don't want too little energy. You want just the right amount to keep the lights on right up here, If you want to try that, and you haven't yet, I put a link to the free online course that I teach below. Thousands of people are in that. You can learn it and try it in less than an hour. And when you do, you'll receive invitations to free Zoom calls that I lead regularly. I've added a whole bunch of extra calls during this time. So this is a really nice time to learn the daily practice. Or if you want to get that full support, you can join my membership program. That is my inner circle of people. And I'll put a link down below about what's involved there, what you get, how you can be a part of it if you like. And when you're part of that, you get to hang out online with other people working on their healing right now. And if nothing else, you can just keep watching my YouTube videos. I've got more coming out. I'm going to be putting them out there on a much more frequent schedule for the time being with this temporary setup. It's nice and easy. I want to keep raising your spirits and mine while we go through this sad and scary experience together. And we're also together, we're going to find some joy and strength in it. So be sure to subscribe so you get notifications each time I post one of these kind of bootleg videos. There's, I just don't have the special equipment for the regular studio shoots right now, but I'll be right here with you and I'll see you in a couple of days.